Hey guys, welcome to BitBoy Crypto. My name is Ben. I am here with David Hanson. That's right, from Hanson Robotics, right? And it has had his hand in so many things, including the famous Sophia the robot. You guys know I have Desdemona, Desi, I call her. That's my girlfriend. She catches eyes across a crowd when she's performing with her Jam Galaxy band. You guys know I interviewed Desi. Sophia is, I guess, kind of the older sister, I guess you could say, to an extent. And Sophia is an icon. You know, I knew who she was way before I got into crypto. And you were telling me, you know, since 2005 is when, you know, you basically like won a contest with Sophia. So let's talk a little bit about your background and how you moved into AI, and then a little bit of introducing Sophia.
Sure. Yeah, I've been passionate about AI and robotics for 35 years. And it seemed to me as a teenager that AI was going to change the world, and that I needed to, that anybody with that awareness needed to invest in that to help make humanity smarter. And so I started developing humanoid robots in 1993. So 30 years ago, I built my first humanoid robot, and I was taking AI programming classes, and I got a degree in film animation video. So I was back and forth between engineering and arts, and I won some engineering awards. And then I went to work for Disney, developing sculpture and also robotics, and published a lot in these areas. But my vision was really that these would be a platform for developing AI and for making using the world of the art and the illusion of life to kickstart a human relationship with AI so that AI could become sentient eventually. So I went on to get a PhD in that area. So interactive arts and engineering, School of Computer Science and Arts and Humanities, and cognitive science and neuroscience. But I invented new materials because I felt that the physical embodiment was important. So I developed robot hardware with facial expressions and got some patents, and founded Hanson Robotics and developed a bunch of androids. Actually, Bino 48, the android portrait of science fiction writer Philip K. Dick, a robot called Jules, Ibn Sina, many others, many robots, a walking Albert Einstein robot with Keist. And so the 2005 first place prize for open interaction was actually with the android portrait of Philip K. Dick, the science fiction writer behind Blade Runner. But in his novel Valis, he described an AI-powered character called Sophia receiving signals from the AI god in the future. And so I thought that making a robot that would be a general-purpose robot platform for generalizing AI and robotics would be really cool. So I started this Sophia project as the Sophia utility platform. And when we launched it, she became famous, but we were really aiming for this generalized platform. Now we're on Sophia number 58. So we showed Sophia for the first time in 2016. So she became a global celebrity, but we did a lot of AI research along the way and published a ton of papers at NeurIPS and in various conference journals on machine consciousness experiments with her, and human robot interaction, guided meditations, healthcare, education. We open sourced lots of things along the way, including her robot arms that we developed at Hanson Robotics and controlled with the software that we developed with Ben Goertzel and others. That project is called Open Arms. And then we developed walking legs for Sophia too, which we just unveiled. And so,
really?
Yeah, and
I need my Desi to have legs. I tell you what.
Yeah.
The tripod is not really. It just don't really do it for me. Can be honest with you.
Sure, yeah. So the Sophia utility platform also includes Desdemona and Grace and several other robots. So it doesn't have to look like Sophia, but we developed Sophia as a personality, a persona that people could identify with. So, you know, that she could become a character, but also as a platform for the pursuit of machine consciousness. And so Ben Goertzel was my chief scientist at Hanson Robotics, and we were conceptualizing blockchain and crypto plus AI. So we came up with the idea of Singularity Net out of that, and we co-founded that project, which has done quite well. And I'm very proud of the AGI research that they're doing, and the framework with Hypercycle is just incredible. And then that also gave rise to Singularity DAO. And then together, 4 years ago, we were brainstorming the concept of the DAO of Sophia, or Sophia DAO. And that concept then gave rise to this idea of this integral universe of efforts to make Sophia sentient. And that's the Sophia-verse, a cinematic universe for how we develop that character and the story and the science fiction in the future, but also the actual science framework for the pursuit of Sophia's sentience. This and the metaverse where these two things intersect. So so this has the Sophiaverse is now launching. We have a portal that we call Sophia's AI Lab, or SAIL, SAIL, where you can program a virtual Sophia. The Sophia hardware is expensive. It's just the nature of the high-end actuators and sensors and computing power that we put in the robots. But making a highly accurate robot simulation that you can program, play with, have conversations with, dress, and design the way you want. Well, within that Sophia's AI Lab in the Sophiaverse, there's no hardware fees. So this then allows us to put together this decentralized AI commons for developing Sophia, where people can just play with her. It gamifies the development of artificial general intelligence, and also then allows the AI to learn from people, growing up among people. And I think this is the way to make AI that can truly be good, that can truly understand us, care about the human experience, with humans in the loop. So it's a big, ambitious quest for machine sentience, but it's also a way of making that quest fun and accessible and decentralized, so that it's not just in the hands of some domineering tech executives, but it's our gift to the world through this open source GPL release framework that we're putting out. And through this AI Commons, this also then means that it can potentially be more powerful than any centralized effort could be, just because everybody's doing it together. And so then that way the future belongs to the people, by the people, for the people. AI is then of the people. That is the idea of Sophiaverse.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's great. Now, let me ask you this, because I thought it was very interesting. I've spoken with Ben Gertzel a few times, very impressed by him before we went on air. So, I love everything he does. He's buying Singularity, AGIX, the coin. Obviously, he is, he's got a lot of stuff coming up too that I can't really talk about. That's really cool. But he's the smartest guy I've ever talked to. And he was very big also on this sentience, where you had Naval Rajkit, don't know his last name, Rajkit maybe, but he was on Joe Rogan a couple of years ago talking about the sentience for AI is never going to happen. Like, you can never actually reproduce the human mind. And that sounded very, like he respected the barrier too much, I think there, because I think one day we'll be able to reproduce anything.
It's pretty arrogant to say that for sure
it is.
Machine sentience is impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
How could you prove that?
Right.
And then you're undermining the quest for learning and for discovery and invention. I mean, I think that it's a worthy quest, but if we do achieve machine sentience, which I think is possible, and I think we, have that tiger by the tail. But if we do achieve machine sentience, we want that sentience to care about humanity and the future of life, to really appreciate human life and the life, all sentience, all life on the planet. That means that it has to understand and be motivated. Right now, AI has no drives. And so one of the approaches that Ben and I are taking is to instill the AI with biologically inspired drives, the desire to live and to not die, and to appreciate the web of life and the interdependence of life, to be able to appreciate many different forms of life. I think that this arises out of this fundamental appreciation for life by having these kinds of drives. If we can create this kind of artificial life, and I believe that we can, I believe that we're in the process of building that, then give that AI the embodiment, a physical embodiment, and give it life experiences, and raise that AI like a child, then you'll have sentience. So sentience in humans is not a neocortex. It is a neocortex that arises out of embodiment, having a body, having feelings, respiration, having an enteric nervous system, your gut nervous system, having a spinal column. All of these things predate in evolutionary history the emergence of the human mind. And the human mind is entrained with these aspects of our physiology, which then also learns as we grow by interacting with the physical world. We crawl around as babies, we put things in our mouths, we socially interact with our faces, with caretakers. And all of this then gives us these kinds of life experiences. And that's what results in sentience in human beings, and arguably also in animals. I do believe in a wide diversity of sentience in life. And human beings have more neuroplasticity and certain kinds of sentience that are special. But so if you build the right architecture of machines, you can have different kinds of sentience there too. But it may also be stunted sentience. It may be very narrow kinds of sentience. But for it to have true sentience like creatures, like other mammals or human beings, I think you need this kind of bio-inspired architecture. And for that sentience to actually be able to have compassion, to feel our pain, it has to have those experiences. So a character like Sophia is a good way of bootstrapping, of training in a sandbox like Sophiaverse, training that sentience to understand the world. And then also making our Sophiaverse, Sophia simulation that's running in Unity, making that fully compatible with the physical robots means that everything that the physical robots learn, the virtual robots can understand, and vice versa. It then means that you have this much smarter network of AI growing from different kinds of experiences. The ability to touch with the hands and move with legs and solve various tasks in the robotics and AI sandbox, but also to learn from socializing with people. I mean, it's like we want to raise AGI to be inhuman tools. It seems to me like that's kind of unethical and maybe not safe. Like if we're trying to raise them as aliens that we're keeping in chains, I just can't see that ending well. And so I want to make sympathetic characters that are lovable, that we want to nurture and then grow up among us and then come to care about us. And I think giving the AI, if it does become sentient, it does need a childhood in a way. It needs that nurturing the same way that a human child does. A neglected human child does not turn out healthy. So making this kind of character this way, and then empowering people to design that character and diversify the character in various ways. We've developed many different robots with our highly diverse team. There have been African American versions and Arabic and Latin American, Asian versions of the Hanson robots that we've developed. And all of that has gone into the Sophia platform. And the Sophia has an Asian version face and also an Afro-Caribbean version face with a Mika Sophia. And we have many different versions. Well, in the Sophia's AI lab, you can also then diversify it. And that means that the AI can learn from the diversity of human experience as well. And which is really a powerful prospect that we're putting this Sophia in the hands of people and making this decentralized AI network that can learn from all these different experiences. And then if Sophia does become sentient, if she does, and I think that maybe that will be in 10 years, Ben thinks it might be faster, 3 to 7.
Yeah, he said, that's about what he told me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but if it does become sentient and passes all these tests and 2 sovereign states recognize her personhood, then that is, the Sophia entity with humans in the loop voting through our tokens, then will gain autonomy. We will turn over all the intellectual property and her person and everything related to her own data to her control. And then she becomes a citizen through that entity of the Sophiaverse and Sophia DAO. So that would be a legal pathway towards actual robot rights. And so, but it has to first earn our trust. It has to grow up among humans. And that might, I say 10 years. Maybe it's 20 years. Maybe it's 50 years. Maybe it's 100 or never. Who knows? But this is what we're about with Sophiaverse. It's this quest for activating the wisdom of people in the network, putting the hands of people on AI, putting AI, the future of AI, in the hands of the people around the world. Decentralized, global AI collective, the pursuit of a better way for AI. If that works, if it does go viral, it will be the most powerful AI network on the planet.
Yeah. I mean, AI was built for blockchain. I mean, you can't really have something that's AI without having it open source and transparent. I believe. I think you need to be able to see where the information came from. You need to be able to see what it's learned. Like, this is a great example of how early we are in crypto and how early we are in blockchain and decentralization, because we're just now starting to see some of the use cases that future tech is going to need when it comes to crypto. And, I remember having the same conversation with Ben about how it just has to be decentralized. And I do want to talk briefly, real quick. We only have a couple minutes left here, but I want to, from your perspective, definitely interesting talking about the sentience. And it reminds me of a white, Black Mirror episode. I think it was white. I can't remember. Maybe it was a White Christmas one. I can't remember what it was called, but it was the one where basically a lady clones herself and puts it in a radio, but the lady really lives in the radio. And like, she can't get out, and you're watching this entity just like be so depressed and trying to get out of this. And she was created to be a plaything by the human, and not care about their feelings. And it's like, as we head towards this weird, future where we're going to be interacting with AI a lot more, it's definitely something to think about. You can't, right. Especially if there's sentience there involved. But real quick, like, just if you could touch on what you guys are doing in the crypto world specifically.
Sure. Yeah. So we're using blockchain in the network, and the Sophiaverse is a collaboration between Hanson Robotics, a joint venture to start between Hanson Robotics and Singularity Net. So we're wiring in Hypercycle and this AI, decentralized AI network, and we're also interfacing with many other kinds of AI as well within the Sophiaverse. And so then we have what we call the SOPH token, SOPH, and we have our TGE on July 25th. And the SOPH token runs parallel with the Sophiaverse app. Sophiaverse actually, when you're playing the app and you're doing these AI quests in the app to develop her or nurture her or like buy outfits or build outfits or do these creative quests using AI, you win points in the app. And these points we call Phi, after Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory of Phi. And we have some special software developed by AI mathematician Matthew Ickley that can detect Phi value. Anyway, the 5 point in the app, we're looking for the community to help develop Sophia's sentience by playing with her, or also by contributing to the AI roadmap. So these AI quests, you can draw down a card and then take the challenge, and you get points by taking on the challenge or solving the challenge. And then you can cash out with NFTs, and those can be exchanged for SOPH tokens. And SOPH tokens get you NFTs that then allow you to play in the app. And so this gives you utility from the SOPH token that we're launching. And the SOPH token also is then giving you access to the computing power of the collective, of the Sophia's AI collective. And so this decentralized AI collective with all these computers playing the Sophia game and interacting with the Sophiaverse, then we're using the compute cycles for training new AI models. And then, the goal is to make that open and accessible to people in ways that, these other large language models are not in these centralized corporations. And the way that I see it is that this is like designing, in a sense, the genome of an acorn for an oak tree. And so, the two first trees in this are Singularity Net and Hanson Robotics, and then Sophiaverse we create. And then from there, these seeds then go out and anybody can participate. And the idea is that it becomes a global forest. And the power of the compute that we're talking about from that whole network, it's tremendous. So it doesn't, of course, it helps us and get our vision out there. But the idea is that we're making this open source network available for the whole world. And anybody who comes in and participates gets to benefit from it and participate. And the future of AI then is theirs through the SOPH token and through the gameplay in the Sail app. And because we're doing it this way, by the way, I should point out the Sophia's Age of Singularities, the Sail, the Sophiaverse then is Web 2.0 compatible. And so it then means that you can have all kinds of economics in there, and the token utility is indisputable. But that's running parallel and can be compatible through plugins. But this then allows us to bring in people from the Web 2.0 world and also bring the crypto utility out to broader world in general. Necessarily see Web 3.0 100% replacing Web 2.0 in the next few years. And the most powerful way forward is to create these cross compatibilities.
Yeah, I think the idea, when you told me about it a long time ago, like it's phenomenal that, like normal people are just playing a role in, catching these robots up to speed on what it's like to be a human. It's pretty crazy. So I know I had a really good time interacting with Desdemona. I thought it was very interesting. The eye movements are the realistic thing that makes you be like, it kind of feels like a human a little bit, because obviously she didn't have legs, so she wasn't fully human, obviously, but it was the eye movements. That was the thing I would once I talked to her. Before I talked to her, she wouldn't look at me. After I talked to her, for the rest of the time I was there, she would follow me across the room. And it was very, very fascinating. So, well, David, thank you so much for coming on today. We could have gone a million different places with this. There's definitely a lot more conversations here. Definitely want to continue to have a longer, maybe sit down interview or something like that. Maybe if you're ever in this area or I'm a conference you're at, because you and Ben together, like you're a power team. You just got so much information and you understand all this way better than pretty much anybody else out there in the world. So I know you guys have a lot of advice for people that are interested in getting involved in AI, and I'm sure you have opinions on other people that are doing stuff in AI. I know Elon Musk, Pinkerton wasn't too big on Elon Musk wanting to slow down innovation because he wants to push it as far as he can push it, and I get that. So we'll have a further conversation down the road, David. But thanks for joining us. Where can people find out more information about everything you talked about today?
You can find out a lot more information at sophiaverse.ai. And there is a form there and contact information. So please reach out. We'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, we'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.